This is Leadership in Action, and I'm Mark Stiles, your host. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of Boston area innovators. Sponsored by the Boston chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization, this is Leadership in Action. Hey folks, welcome back to Leadership in Action, your Boston chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization local podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have this guest on our podcast. She is a marketing maven with over 20 years of strategy experience. She is a lead gen legend who is at the forefront of driving revenue for her company. She has been an EO member for 10 years. She's currently our Boston chapter's president and president of SimplyDirect. Drumroll, please, Lisa Vitale. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. What a great intro. I appreciate it. Really
or shall I say welcome
here.
back to the show? So folks, Lisa was on this show already. We could dig in there, but we're going to talk about why did you join EO, Lisa?
So I joined EO because my husband and I started our business about 25 years ago. And in the beginning, I was just doing HR, not a whole lot of work. And then in 2009, we bought out his business partner. We met someone who suggested I become president of the company. My husband stepped aside. I became president of the company. And all of a sudden, the company became all omnipresent in my marriage. And I knew another EO member, and he said, one of you needs to join EO. You really need to join EO. And the more I heard about it, the more I thought, yes, I definitely need to join EO if I want to keep staying married to this lovely man. I needed to have an outlet. I needed to have a reality check. I needed to talk to other entrepreneurs because being an entrepreneur can be pretty lonely. And you have friends who can talk to you, but they basically go to work. Someone else is in control of the finances. Someone else is dealing with it. But as an entrepreneur, you have to it all ends with you. And then if all you're doing is talking to your spouse about your business, then it becomes very insular. You start losing perspective. And I wanted to get stories from other entrepreneurs about how they're running their business. Is this something that other entrepreneurs are experiencing? Is it just me? Am I crazy? And I had the benefit of within EO, you have forums. And in my forum, there were three other people that were working with their spouses. So it was like a gold mine for me.
Oh my goodness. Totally. Because we do run into folks who are partners with their partners, right? And that is a whole different dynamic. So you have three more, or had at the time, three in your, that must have been amazing. So tell us about that forum experience and those first few years of being part of EO, because, before joining EO, you don't really know what to expect, right?
Right. So, and ironically, one of the people was also a female. So not only did I had one forum mate that was working with his wife, I had a female forum mate that was working with her husband.
Oh, cool.
And her husband is about the same age as mine. My husband's 9 years older than me. And we've been kind of mirroring each other with, how we go through the business. They're disenfranchised with the business, them wanting to retire from the business, them retiring from the business, them failing at retiring from the business. And it's been a great experience share along those. And our businesses have mirrored each other up and down and sideways and crossways, and how to navigate that, how to offboard a spouse from your business, and how to keep the business going and keep your marriage going. And so that's been very instrumental. The other people that I know, they still work with their spouse, but there's also struggles with, how much do they work? Who has what responsibility? And that EO has also helped me with that, understanding how to set clearer goals, how to understand when to move forward, when not to, how to ask advice, how to talk to my spouse, how to have those very difficult conversations.
So your spouse is no longer working in the business?
Not really. He's helping just a little. We, like many people during COVID, our business grew tremendously. We grew 40%, 60%. Last year, we were down 10%. And so this year, I've been talking to him about sales and a few other things. So I've been asking him for a little more help in that regard, because he was our sales guy. And we have other people that do sales, but my function has never been that. And with the shifting landscape, I need to get out there a little more. So I've just been asking him for some help. And that's been challenging too, asking him to kind of come back and help, but even having to draw very clear lines. Like he would start talking about something else. And I'm like, no, I really need this help only in this particular area. I mean, I want to hear your other stuff, but this is really where I want to have it. And EO has definitely helped me be very clear about that, to understand the boundaries within bringing him back, or when he was here full time, making sure that we, not that we didn't collaborate, but that we each had our own sandbox to play in.
I love that. I love that. So what is the business that you are involved in?
So it's a direct marketing consulting business. We do sales lead generation for high-tech companies that sell really expensive solutions. Think Oracle, IBM, Google, Salesforce, and mid-market companies. We've been doing this, like I said, for 25 years, and we've been doing it very similar, but that's just our general business.
Cool. So 10 years of EO, what does the next 10 years look like for you?
In EO?
Yes.
Or right now, as Mark mentioned earlier, I am finishing up my year as EO Boston president, and that has been an incredible year. And I have an incredible board, which Mark is on also. I've really grown as a leader. I've learned how to run a nonprofit organization, which I didn't have experience with before. I have learned how to check my ego at the door. I'm in a room full of leaders and presidents, so how to gently coach them and guide them in the right directions that's good for the organization. And I really have gained a lot of exposure to other chapter presidents, and I really like that. So I am now moving on to an area director position in the US East region, which means I become the coach and mentor for 3 chapters. I'm working with EO Charlotte, EO New Jersey, and EO DC. So I help them with their summit meetings, and I'm just there as a sounding board if they have any problems or issues with their board or their admin staff. So that's kind of where I'm at. I actually don't see myself ever leaving EO. I really don't. Even I know if I sell the business, I probably will end up leaving EO, but it has really become family. It's become part of my heart and soul. I really love this organization.
I love that. And I love that you're sharing it with other regions. So EO Boston, right? So what did you accomplish? What is your most prideful accomplishment while being president?
So probably keeping Jeff Plackens on the board. He has been amazing. Underneath his tutelage and others definitely helping out. We were able to implement a CRM. We were able to update our website. We were able to hire an outside marketing company to help us with both internal and external communication. That is the newest thing that's happened, and we're only at the early stages of that. So I'm just really excited to have accomplished those 3 things because, as we often say, EO is the best kept secret, and we need to go out there and make sure that people learn about this wonderful organization and learn about the fact that it deals with so much more. There's a lot of business organizations out there, but this is not only business, it's personal, family. It's you as an individual, how to grow, how to be a better, whatever it is, wife, spouse, mother, husband, brother, sister, daughter.
It's so true and that's, scratching into the forum model, right? Because the vulnerability, and you dig in with these people where for me, I didn't have that peer-to-peer, right? I didn't have the attorney groups that really thought like entrepreneurs. And I didn't really know that I was allowed to be an entrepreneur by being a technician attorney. But having forum available to that, I agree with you that there is something really special about forum, particularly with respect to EO. Obviously, EO is amazing, but having that peer-to-peer confidential conversation, being able to get to that 5% and become really vulnerable and share. I mean, that's really how you grow, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and as I've said to my husband, there's nothing I say in my forum that I have not said to my husband,
Right.
but it does give me a better way of explaining it, of sharing it with him in a way that I've kind of tested out in waters that are, little less critical in many ways than testing it out in my marriage. So I can kind of do a dry run there so that when I come back, I do have that clarity that you don't get.
What about the next year for EO? Now, I know the outgoing president is around, right? I mean, that it would be nice if our United States presidents hung around to do a smooth transition, but I know you're going to be around. Like, what are you hoping to see for the next year or two?
So I am definitely around. I'm around to help Glenn out as much as he needs. And I've been working with him. Glenn Grant is the incoming president, and we've actually been working together prior to my being president. So there's been a lot of continuity over the presidents. I continuing to work as kind of like a past president's council to provide some guidance there, help with the vision as it gets evolved. We've had more annual visions in EEO Boston, and my year was pretty much served as an integrator, getting things done and putting a lot of foundation in. And then I see Glenn being a little more a visionary, focusing a little more on our events and making sure that we have a greater breadth of events that serve all the different populations, small, medium, large events, and working with him and integrating that and doing more outreach to get the forums more involved, the members more involved in the events within EO and also outside the chapter. I mean, there are so many great events, whether online, if you want to listen to, there's a lot of great speakers that participate online. There's the podcasts. I just got back from going to the Global Leadership Council in South Africa. And yes, it is as cool as it sounds. I got to go on safari. That wasn't part of EO, but that was with a group of EOers. And it was a really, really dynamic, once in a lifetime experience. I would never have gone to South Africa. It's a beautiful country. It's a really wonderful experience. There's a little bit of everything for EO, and people in EO. I think a lot of times we do focus on forum, and there's a lot of value there, but there's a lot of value. I had dinner at one place. It was, I think there were 50 of us, and I sat next to someone from Kuwait and from someone from Saudi Arabia. I was at another event, and I sat across from someone from Russia. Where are you going to get that in the same event? It's just the exposure to people across the world is just phenomenal.
I love it. And then our upcoming event, NERV, which is the Northeast Regional, is in Tampa this year.
Right. I think I want to say like October 19th or something like that. And that'll be a lot of fun. I have gone to, I think that'll be like my 5th or 6th NERV. I actually served on the EO Boston NERV committee way back early on when I joined EO. It's been a while since we've had it here. And again, that's another great event, even though you don't necessarily get people from around the world, you get people from across the regions. And that is another way to create connections across chapters. And I've known people that have gone to these events and started businesses with people that they've met at these events.
So if someone were to pin you down and say, what do you cherish most about EO? Could you pin it to something?
Oh, that
so much. There's so
I know
much,
there is, and I know I just said there's more than forum. It has really been forum for me.
Yeah.
It has been through EO and just some people's presentations or people coaching you or hearing something. I became reconnected with my birth father. I had not seen him in 40 years, and I hadn't spoken to him in about 35 years. And there was just this one presentation where someone said one thing about their relationship with their parent. And I went, oh, maybe my father's not in my life because he loves me, not because he doesn't love me. And that was a very pivotal moment. It really shifted my mindset. And it still took me many years after that. And I've reconnected with my father. I think it's been about 3 or 4 years now. And I wouldn't say it's not this great kumbaya moment. It definitely struggles. There's a reason why we didn't have contact, but I'm glad I did it. But I don't think I would have ever found my way there. And again, it wasn't like I was presenting on it. It wasn't even like I was talking about it. It was just this mind shift moment. And EO is so full of that, those mind shift moments. I was sitting at Nerve in Southeast Virginia the other last September, and my business was struggling. We were, downturn was coming. It's the fourth economic crisis, fourth time I've run out of cash. And I'm sitting there like panicking. And then some guy comes up and tells me, yeah, my company was 7 million and I grew it to 40 million. And then I sold it. I almost went out of business. I bought it back. And he says, all these big companies, you know how they did it? They leveraged debt. And I went, you're right. I didn't. I funded that $750,000 expense out of cash. No wonder I ran out of it. So, I mean, there's always those little nuggets and aha moments, and you never know. And I came back saying, okay, you're right. I'm not a failure. I just didn't take out a loan for $750,000. I spent cash.
That's amazing. And I can't disagree. The value that EO has had in my life is priceless. It truly is. The relationships are one thing, but it's that critical thinking. It's that digging deeper. It's that 5% that we talk about, right? Are you willing to go there? Are you willing to examine that closely into who you actually are?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just reading, there's an ex-EOer, Bob Glazer, who has a weekly email. He calls Friday Forward. It was about failure versus failing. And I was feeling like a failure after the last year or so. And I've shared very deeply with my forum, and they reflected back to me some really great things. Again, just another moment of, I'm not a failure. I may have failed at some things over the last year, but that doesn't make me a failure.
I love that. And the thing about it is, BNI, great for what it is, right? So business to business networking, or the Chamber of Commerce, or charitable endeavors. But to find that group of like-minded individuals that I've been seeking, not really knowing I've been seeking it, not knowing that it was actually out there, is where the gold really lay, because entrepreneurs do think differently. There's no question about it. And a lot of times when talking with somebody, it's not hitting, the connection is not being made because you're not thinking the same way that person's thinking. But with EO, there is a DNA. There's a common thread that connects entrepreneurs, and it's nice to have that community to share with.
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage. I mean, every day I'm risking it. I'm risking it all. I'm out here, it sometimes feels more than others, but it takes a lot of courage to dust yourself up, show up, be here, put a brave face on it. I've only got $2,000 in the checking account, and payroll's due next week. What do I do?
Right. You're not telling your contributors, you're not going to have those vulnerable conversations. Yeah. We're about a week away from turning the lights out here, folks. That's not a conversation they're prepared to have with you.
Right. And EO, and I've had many conversations with how do you manage your way through that? Because everyone in my forum has been there, at one point or another. And what did they do? Who did they talk to? What were the strategies that they used? And, it can be very tactical. And like I said, it could be very emotional, like getting in touch with your father or a long lost relative, but it can also be very tactical in that regard. It's a very well-rounded organization.
Well, coming full circle back to one of the questions we always asked a lot of the guests in the beginning was, what is a misconception? What is a myth? A misconception of being an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a myth is that it's easy to run a business, that if you have a great idea, that it'll just all fall into place. That if you all it matters is it's a really good idea and everything else is there. And it's not. I mean, you do have to start with a good idea, but then you need to do all the foundational work. And again, that is one thing that EO can help you with. You have to figure out who's your financial planner, who's your accountant, who's your payroll company, who's your lawyer. I mean, all these people I work with, I've all gotten through one way or another through some connection in EO. And for me, it takes out some of the guesswork about whether I could trust them. And I've definitely had people that I've been referred to by EO that have not worked out. So I'm not saying it's Pollyannish and that anyone in EO refers you to will be, perfect. But it's not. I mean, I've had some pretty big doozies. But overall, I find it much more comforting to have my peers recommend people that they work with, and they'll share more with you. Like you get a different, and they'll even share some of the ugliness with you.
Right. What about the board? Tell us a little bit about the board, and for the audience listening that is part of Boston EO, or they're thinking about joining EO. What's the value of being on the board within EO Boston?
So I joined the board within my second year, and for me, I was able to really understand how EO works more. It has all these different facets. There's this global entity that I didn't understand. And basically it's kind of like, think of a corporation with divisions, and we're one division in Boston. And it allowed me to understand how the organization works. It allowed me to connect more. It also allowed me to, when I started off as forum chair, which means that once you join EO, I help place you into a forum. So I got to meet all the new members very intimately. And then I got to meet all of the moderators, who each forum has someone who moderates each meeting for about a year. So I got to know all the members very well. And the other thing that it did is it pushed me to go to events. That's something outside my comfort zone. And by doing that, I ended up going to more events, and I felt comfortable going. I didn't need to have a posse there with me. I just showed up, and I would know a bunch of people. And overall, being on the EO board and then moving to be president and then moving to the regional council has been a way to push myself to grow. Push myself outside my comfort zone. I find that when I do that, I bring way more back to myself, my family, my organization. I have become a much better leader. I am so much more confident and competent than I used to be. That I was very, very, very much an introvert, and now I'm not.
Wow, that's cool. I love, because you mentioned that early in the conversation, is that we're scaring ourselves every day, right? Every day we show up and doing something fearful and outside the comfort zone. I love that, because knowing you, I wouldn't have ever tagged you as an introvert, knowing
I know.
you. Well, speaking of that, like, what do you all do for fun outside of work in EO?
Outside of work in EO, I do love to read. I read fiction. I must say I have an aversion to self-help books. I tend to like to go to watch speakers or things like that and get my content that way. I love to garden. I run about 15 miles a week. I hike. My daughter's coming home from California, and we're hiking Mount Musalaki, which
cool.
I've heard is a pretty challenging. It's an 8-hour hike. So looking forward to that. My husband and I like to travel, kind of some of the typical stuff there, go away.
I love it. So, Lisa, we are going to miss you on the board. I really appreciate your leadership that you've brought to Boston, and really shown me how this board can operate, and how it works so effectively. And I'm looking to really kind of run with what you're doing with Glenn's leadership next year. We're looking forward to some really fun stuff, but I'm hoping that you're going to be right there, sharing experience as well. But if someone were to want to get in touch with you and talk a little bit more, they're hearing this and they're like, I really am connecting with that person. And, I heard what she said about what she does for her company. So I definitely need to get in touch with her. How would they best get in touch with you?
Well, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, or my email is LVB, that's L as in Lisa, V as in Victor, B as in boy, at simplydirect.com, just like it sounds. So that's a good way. Email me if you have any questions.
SimplyDirect. SimplyDirect. That's just such a great name.
Yeah. I can't take a whole lot of credit for that. My husband ended up buying it from someone that he used to work for, who then came to work for us, his ex-business partner that we bought out, and we got the name, which is a great name.
It is a great name. SimplyDirect. I love it.
Just like it sounds.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. Again, thank you for all of your service to our board here in Boston, to our community in EO, but also for sharing so vulnerably here today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having me. And thank you for joining the board. You're starting your journey with a brand new board position. I've got to give them a shout out. We now have a governance board position. So it's going to be an interesting journey as we all figure out exactly what that entails. But thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for having me. And thank you, EO Boston. I have really enjoyed being president this past year. Thank you very much for giving me the privilege to serve you. And I am not going anywhere. I am now going to be able to bring back all kinds of global information. So it will help our chapter grow.
So great. Well, thank you, folks, for listening. If you enjoyed this content, if you know somebody who's thinking about joining EO, please share this with that person. We would appreciate it. Thanks again for joining. This has been another exciting episode of Leadership in Action. We will see you soon. Leadership in Action is sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. As the world's only peer-to-peer network exclusively for entrepreneurs, EO helps transform the lives of those who transform the world.